Zan is live. Zan is on the draw.
Oh, was Zan... Okay.
So it... Yeah.
Zan was a lower seed for this one?
Yes, which is...
Oh, so so then Daniel had to be the second seed.
Yeah, Daniel is the second seed.
Okay, yep, there we go.
So a Bant mid-range against Teamer Flash.
Feels good to be in the driver's seat. Don't worry, Chris. We will take care of your baby.
I'll be watching the stream.
Okay. Okay, Lee, how do we set up like that speed loop on, just like of us doing commentary on loop without sound? Like, what can we do for like a 5-second interval that will look like, just pointing at... I guess you can actually see us.
No.
Right. Interesting.
It doesn't work as well without visuals.
Oh, yeah, but so we go to the booth.
Zan's just developing here. His hand's pretty slow. He's probably going to play Uro next turn.
I forget already. It feels like so long ago. How is this matchup? What do we think?
I don't believe... Have we seen Bant? Does Zan play against Bant? I don't think we have.
I think we saw the tail end of some games of, players playing the mirror or at different matchups, but I don't think we've seen Zan play against Bant. They're all on Teferi, and that's sort of what seems like, that is a big warning.
Teferi's a nightmare. Mm-hmm. Daniel did not have it here, which is huge.
Right.
Because it would have turned off a lot of Zan's hand.
Right.
As is often the case.
Well, and then in our first match today, you said that you didn't think play draw mattered that much. But it does matter matchup to matchup. How do you feel here?
The Flash deck in particular plays in a way such that the play matters a lot.
Right, and so we were talking about it earlier, mono red aggro decks, that certainly matters a lot, right? You naturally want to be on the play.
Yes.
Yeah, but here, I think more specifically, you don't want your opponent to be on the play. You don't want to be behind.
Right. And it's not as important in some matchups like Collins and Zan played.
Right.
And, Zan missed like 3 land drops. Ooh, this is going to get an intervention very quickly. Whew, just can't let that thing resolve. And then this allows Zan to untap with Reclamation and hopefully draw another, maybe like a Frilled Mystic.
Yeah. Well, given Zan's track record this tournament, he is going to draw the Frilled Mystic next turn.
Okay, yeah, fair. Once it's just a smidgen too late,
right.
You still get use out of it.
Yeah, basically his opponent is going to cast a second Nissa here. Or just Teferi, and just,
Teferi would be the nightmare.
Right.
Zan doesn't have any good answers to that. Scorching Dragonfire is in the main deck.
Right. So it's in there right now.
That would be the one.
But if Daniel knows, he's made it to the semis so far. I'm going to imagine he's run into probably a Teamer Rick at some point, or at least, someone to deal with Teferi. He probably will take it up. It's something that we will have to see. Does he have it?
Right.
Drum roll.
He didn't have it the turn he cast Uro.
Right. So the second Nissa is also good.
Repeatness is pretty strong. But this leaves Zan a good window to start cashing in these explosions.
Right.
Start getting ahead. This explosion, I believe, that's 10 mana, so 6 damage, kills Nissa straight up.
Will straight up kill Nissa.
So that leaves Daniel with a 3/3 land and an Uro.
And let's see if we can pull up Daniel's list, because I'm curious if we have seen...
there's been a lot of different builds of Bant.
Right, I'm curious if he has any interaction main deck. And we should probably try to get his list onto Cardboard Live, so I will look at that as well.
So plussing the Breeding Pool, just classic Nissa moves where... Oh, wow, I just get to straight up cast Cameo here. So this is a really good play from Daniel, just putting 2 Planeswalkers on the board. Plussing even fuels the Uro. Uro can be escaped next turn. So even if Zan kills the Nissa... named Elspeth Conquers Death, but did not hit. And there's the Frilled Mystic.
I knew it!
right on time.
Like your predilection for predicting the correct play, and then also your opponent's contest in your hands. I know when Zan will draw a Frilled Mystic, and it's always on time.
So even if Zan were to use the explosion line to kill the Nissa and draw 6 cards, there's still... Daniel would still have a 3/3 Reading Pool, still have a Tameo, and then unearth the Uro right out of the graveyard.
Right.
And I didn't see quite what Tameo milled over. I saw Shadow the Sky. That's not too useful. But Tameo, if there is a good card in the graveyard, Tameo can buy it back.
Right.
It's one of the very useful things about... when Zan unearths an Uro, he just clicks all his cards. He doesn't care what they are.
Right.
When you have Tameo in your deck...
Well, we saw earlier in some matches where he would actually, intervention for 1 just to put the card in the graveyard to cast the Uro, and that was key to success in that game.
Yes. It looks like the best card Daniel can get back is Nissa. So even killing the Nissa, not super ideal. Because even if Daniel has a land here, I don't believe he's quite close enough to casting Nissa and then casting Uro. I believe he's a little short on blue mana. Or just mana in general.
Yeah, so yep, sorry about that again. Looks like we forgot to mute someone as well. We will fix that for the next stream. But yeah, thank you for reminding me. I will keep making sure we, evidently, someone's mic was on again and we start to hear. And this time it's children's toys. I think Zan just likes to listen to ambient noises of,
what's going on.
Right, yeah. Maybe he's emulating the tournament experience of just, loud chatter.
Random stuff going on.
Occasionally someone screams judge into the recording.
Discarding the Uro, I think, is pretty important for Zan to do here.
Yeah, so you can skip the step of casting from hand.
Yes, you just want to, it's kind of like a ritual. You don't get to draw a card, but Zan actually chose to take the Tamiyo down instead of the Nissa, likely relying on flashing back Uro to contain the lands while he deals with Nissa. Because if Zan were to kill Nissa there, Daniel just gets it back with Tamiyo and replays it the turn following, or even that turn. Like it might do nothing.
Right. I like the implication that someone mentioned Zan's actually probably just playing Candy Crush. Yeah, Zan is actually such a professional that he can double queue into multiple games, and so has been known to play Teamfight Tactics and Magic at the same time.
Well, you only have to play Candy Crush until you run out of lives.
That's true. So. Right.
So that probably ended around round 5.
Yeah, and so that's why he started doing much better and played all of his tight games. All right, so we have an Uro from Daniel.
Probably exiling the Shattered Skies and such like that.
Yeah. And how do you feel? Who's favored? If we had our favorite, our advantage meter.
Our advantage meter, it would be pretty solidly in Daniel's hand.
Yeah.
Daniel has a really good board presence, but Zan has a lot of cards in hand and the ways to deploy them.
Always the Frilled Mystic after the spell.
That's just classic this deck.
Right.
It's either.
It's a testament to Zan's skill, the fact that, that can happen every time. And it certainly cost him, throughout this tournament.
Yes, it has. The Mountain has too.
I don't know if you were listening to the stream. He had the last round, he had Steam Vents Mountain. Or he had Stomping Ground Mountain and no blue mana and drew Frilled Mystic. I was like, Lee would be proud. Good job.
I was talking to Collins during that game.
Yeah.
And he played the same deck. We saw him in the Win and In.
Yeah. How does he feel about one basic mountain?
He said the mountain was garbage.
Right. It seems bad.
A lot of the time you board out all the red cards anyway.
Right.
So
it's also seemed to me that he is, he's never, elected to get the mountain when there are other options available, unless he was already going to win.
The one time I saw Zen get the Fabled Passage Mountain was the only basic.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I remember. I was sitting right here, and I was like, "Oh, Lee, touche."
All right, so I believe Zan can fire off an explosion for 7 if he chooses to take down the Nissa. That would discard a lot of cards, but that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, there's no.
The Nissa needs to clear the table, and you don't want Daniel to draw 7 cards. So.
That's not the line here. Here, opponent, have 7 cards.
It feels a lot worse to draw 7 cards when you're discarding 6 of them. Is really all I'm trying to say.
I don't know. The last time I did that in Cube, it was still pretty good. That's a Gristle brand, right?
True.
Yeah, true. This is, but I believe he does have to get the Nissa off the table.
Yes, and with the Frilled Mystic, if there is a fight over this explosion, if Danny wants to keep his Nissa in play, that's actually a little better for Zan because he can just start, throwing some Frilled Mystics down.
I'm going to ask again. So in this matchup, does Zan want to be Wreck or does he want to be Flash?
Zan actually doesn't have enough mana to quite kill the Nissa. He is 1 short.
3 here plus 7, so he would have 10?
Yeah, that's 1 short.
Yeah.
Nissa's at 7 now. So we're actually going to postpone killing the Nissa until another day. And if Zan had wanted to Growth Spiral, it should have been done before the untap.
Right.
That gives you an extra... It makes Growth Spiral net neutral. Which wouldn't matter here unless Zan wanted to use an X-Spell. But it's a little tighter play. So we're kind of Uro locked. The Zan can't really trade off Uros because it's so hard for him to get his back into play.
Well, not if he draws 7 and discard 6 of them.
You have to actually draw 8 next turn to kill Nissa. So,
and this is tough. Nissa is still very good.
Yeah. Zan can even play the Reclamation and kill Nissa, I believe, because Reclamation is essentially free.
Right. All right, so I'm thinking going on. This is pretty close, because even though Zan is up on cards, he is still behind.
It looks like Daniel has a tough decision, but I'm not quite sure what it is. we can't see Daniel's hand. We do not have the technology.
Right.
But he's clearly weighing some options. Maybe there's an Elspeth Conquers Death hiding out somewhere.
It's interesting to say that, because we actually sort of, we could have tried to figure out, a way to see our opponent's hands. We kind of like the approach of just, we see what Zan sees without perfect information. Yeah, it's good to, we get a better idea of what he's thinking, honestly. It's so much easier to say, oh, we have a perfect information, and clearly he should have played around this. But, that's not the case.
It's also a really easy trap to fall into.
Right, absolutely, yeah, even if you don't intend to. Yeah, so I thought he might attack because I believe Daniel probably wants to trade. He's fine trading Uros.
Daniel just wants cards.
Right,
Daniel
exactly.
has 2 cards in hand and needs more.
Right.
This Nissa is not... Nissa's great if it can ultimate, but Nissa's not long for this world. We know that. Mm-hmm. Daniel knows that Zan has the option to start making Night Peck ambushers and explosions.
And Zan's at 13. That's not, insignificant. Probably still pretty safe.
Yeah, I don't think Zan would block here because it unlocks the Nissa lands.
Right.
But we'll see what Zan wants to do. I don't know Zan's graveyard. I think it's just 2 Fabled Castages. This
is an interesting situation we found ourselves in, because it is sort of a weird mana race, right? They both have a ton of mana. I mean upwards of 20 mana almost, and so we'll just see. It's surprising because the Team of Wreck, does its mana as sort of an instant speed, somewhat more efficiently, doesn't, put its lands at risk.
Yeah, Daniel's got 16 mana, it looks like.
Right.
And Zan is over here sitting on also 16. with the Wilderness Reclamation, it's
right. But you said this out loud earlier, that Explosion's big. It's a big deal. And that it's in his deck, and then, it's so good. It may be a better payoff than, even Nissa ult. Could still, put Daniel at risk to a big explosion if Zan, lands multiple Wilderness Reclamations, because he has a second one.
Yes.
Honestly, I've seen, most of the time, I think he had 3 of them against Collins, and I believe it was necessary, but
yes,
most of the time 2 is more than enough.
The first one's usually a small ball one, like we see here. It's for 4. Mm-hmm. Zan's just trying to get some more resources. The second one is the bigger one, and the third one is just
normally lethal. Yeah.
And there's the 3rd explosion.
Well, then when he had the double kill against Collins, right? 22, you draw 22 cards.
Yeah. Just straight up, Collins is a 21. Just 21, yeah.
So. It's one of my favorite things to say in Magic. What are you at? Oh, okay. You're dead.
21, that's easy.
The weekend of regionals, which I guess was 2 weekends ago now. I went to a team tournament instead of going to regionals because I wanted to play Pioneer. And I had a situation where my opponent cast 2 Chandras in one turn.
Oh, wow. I just realized that Zan only has 1 land in his hand. So he's just running on all gas, offering a trade for 2 lands here with Uro. Because Zan knows he has a discard to hand. Right. So the Uro is going to come back.
Right. So I played in a tournament in which my teammates were asking me, what are you doing? Because I Gideon emblemed. Gideon Ally Zendikar for emblem to deal 2 extra damage. And then, do a bunch of Heliod tricks. And it was like, I killed my opponent from 17. It's like, wow.
Ooh, a chump block from the Temple of Mystery.
Okay.
So not interested in trading Uro. Maybe Daniel doesn't want to give the extra card away.
And did Zan attack face?
Zan did attack face. Okay. Zan did not attack Nissa.
Yeah, because he's probably going to.
Well, it's not as important. It is good to get the Nissa off the table.
Right.
But whereas 3-land Nissa Emblem would be very difficult for Zan to beat without a huge explosion to the face. Mm-hmm. Zan basically can't enter combat at that point. Mm-hmm. The Uros can't attack to draw cards. Even the Night Peck ambushers, you need 2 of them to have a board presence against indestructible lands.
Right.
Not to say the least of Daniel, probably getting 12 lands out of his deck.
Right.
That's just... It would be difficult to beat in 3-land Nissa Emblem, but with only 1 land, it's more manageable. It's not a big a deal.
Man, they just have so many spells in hand.
Yeah, 2 ambushers, 2 frilled mystics, an Uro that's probably just going to get discarded, and a more growth spirals that get discarded. I don't know. This isn't lethal because we're not close to that stage of the game. But if Zan wants to try to string together a 2-turn lethal, I don't know what Daniel's counter suite is. Mm-hmm. Did we figure that out?
Oh yeah, we have that pulled up, I believe.
Because some of these decks can play some counter spells. A lot of them do not. If they're just trying to mid-range you out.
So let's see, we have that here. Main deck, he has an Aether Gust.
So that does counter explosion.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't. But with Frilled Mystic, Zan would have to count his mana pretty judiciously to make sure he could assemble a 2-turn lethal across 2 explosions with Frilled Mystic backup, which certainly possible, especially if Daniel only has just the 1 Aether Gust.
Right.
And that looks to be all Daniel can assemble in the main deck. But you have to realize that Elspeth Conquer's Death is also a factor in this turn kill.
Right.
Because it takes a Reclamation off the table.
Right. I mean, which is, upwards of 10 mana.
Right. And since only doing this for 8 for 2 reasons. 1, he gets to discard the mountain to hand size. 2.
Yes. Reason number 1. You said it.
You just don't want to draw. Zan is in danger of decking.
Right. Yeah. That is the true.
If Daniel can grind this game out enough.
Right.
It's not likely to happen.
Well, and also Nissa would help that too.
Yeah, but you can't just fire off an explosion for 12 or whatever because you're discarding most of the cards anyway.
Right. Yeah. His next explosion, is going to have to be the lethal one.
Yes. And it has to target Daniel.
Right, that's the problem. Yeah, if he suppose he needs to kill this Uro and he says you can draw 6 cards, that's gonna be a problem because then he'll certainly have an Elspeth Conquer's Death. And while Zan does have basically infinite mana plus double Frilled Mystic and everything he could want, I mean there is some sequence where this could become problematic. So yeah, basically Zan has to make sure he doesn't lose the game.
Right.
I don't know if Zan wants the Spectral Sailor, but maybe he sees it as a flying
I think
man.
the Spectral Sailor should just be thrown in the graveyard.
I think so.
It is.
Oh, and the mountain. Yeah, we finally figured out the mountain.
I think the mountain's better than the Spectral Sailor.
I would agree, but I think he still has.
But it looks like Zan doesn't value mana as much as.
So this is he still has to discard 2 more cards.
Right.
Spectral Sailor's got to be one of them.
Bone Crusher Giant is a high priority for me as well.
To discard?
Yes.
Okay. Worse than Spectral Sailor?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not worse.
Right.
Spectral Sailor is still worse.
Right.
But and it looks like Zan's discarding.
Well, he had a Growth Spiral too, yeah, and he's looking at it now.
Right, yeah, and I think Zan is deciding between Thassa's Intervention, a Frilled Mystic, or
I'm sure Zan's just saying, what do I do? I'm discarding.
It's not often you have 7 great, because if Zan can put these ambushers into play, and it looks like he can cast both of them on instep, he's just going to take over the game.
Right.
With Expansion Explosion backup and double Frilled Mystic, Daniel's not going to be able to compete. Even if an Elspeth Conquer's Death enters the battlefield and brings back Nissa. This is another Nissa. It's just going to meet a snake or an elf wizard lizard.
It will always be a snake in my heart.
Yeah, I keep thinking it's a snake because of Mystic Snake.
Right. One of my favorite Magic cards.
Why is that?
Has an ETB trigger.
Oh, fair.
Is good with Momentary Blink.
So Zan's going to take another 6 on the Chen.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
No trade with the Temple Garden. How many lands does Zan have in play? 8, 10? That's 30 mana. That's 26 damage with... Right. Actually, discarding a land was weird because now it's...
Not lethal. Right. This might just be, I have too many cards, I don't know what to do.
Yes.
Ironically, doesn't Bone Crusher Giant...
It's also lethal.
Right. Represents more.
Well, no, actually.
No, not anymore. because he gains 3 life.
Gain 3 life. Bone Crusher, I believe, is 1 short-term lethal. So
interesting. So Zan chump blocked.
Also, if you have 2 lands in play, you can attack with Uro and then assemble lethal. But this just is kind of weird.
Well, I mean, now our opponent is hellbent.
Yes, Daniel just has Uro to rely on, which will come back just to draw a card next turn.
Well, and now Zan's attacking for 9.
Yeah, and this is just straight up lethal.
Yeah, it's actual lethal now. We figured it out. We ran the numbers. Now, unfortunately, Zan has to tap everything.
Yeah, I can't just say I've got it.
Yeah.
You gotta... The paper tournament flash your opponent, the expansion explosion after gesturing to all your lands.
Right.
Was a huge time saver. Because you have to count every single bit of mana. On Arena, you have to tap everything one at a time.
Right.
There's no shortcutting it.
I mean, at least you tap the right colors first, like the blue, red, and then you're just like, all right, click as fast as possible.
In paper, you just say, I've got 10 lands. I'm going to use my untap triggers. That's 30 mana. 26.
And unfortunately, for the last one, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I learned that today.
And Zan has a chance to kill himself here, but he has demonstrated knowledge that he will not do that. Yeah, no hesitation this time.
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah, 20 and 21, you got it. Even leave it open for Old Mystic.
All right, so...
All right.
Cool.
I love it when they draw a bunch of cards.
It's very, like Las Vegas sort of casino, sort of, flair.
It's good programming.
Yeah, I also like the sort of, a consolation is here's 21 cards, by the way.
Here.
Yeah.
You're dead, but
Yeah, you're dead, but you had all these cool cards in hand.
still have all these.
It's a weird still had all these, force your opponent to have it.
So we've seen Zan sideboard similar matchups. The Gusts are still good because of Nissa, but the Dispute is really important. Teferi is a big deal.
Mhm.
It's probably the best card in Daniel's deck against Zan. And we're just going to see, Zan probably take on Scorching Dragonfire, the Spectral Sailor, the Bone Crusher Giant, that sort of deal.
Yep, and then, seems pretty standard, even though we haven't seen Zan play against this yet.
Yeah. Last time Zan boarded out a Reclamation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why. Maybe to juggle around Teferi and Elspeth Conquers Death, just to have a little more insulation. The Sailors don't seem great, but they do attack Planeswalkers, which makes it a little better against Teferi.
Or card advantage, too.
But not ideal, yeah.
I think when he's sort of high interaction, in theory, he has, a way to get some of that card back.
Yeah, and then Zan's taking out a Wreck, a Sailor, and an expansion.
I know Zan's a big favor of sort of shaving things rather than cutting them entirely. He tends to build his decks those ways, too, where it's sort of, a lot of versatility. Well, he literally has two halves of two different decks put together. That is
Reclamation is really good, but it is really weak against Teferi, and being on the draw, you're not always going to have access to it.
Well, he was on the draw game 1, so, in a way, Zan is broken serve.
Yes.
Which is great.
Especially important.
Well, again, and then, I've been harping this all day. Oh, yeah, classy. That descent actually looks pretty good, and you can put that mount on the bottom.
No, I know Zan will put the mountain on the bottom. Right. Yeah.
Cool. But this is another one of those, he drew the Wreck version. It went over the top. Maybe his opponent got to, Nissa at 8 loyalty, and Zan was still over the top. Frilled Mystics were good that game, finally, even though he drew them late every time.
Yeah, well, they were cast on turn 6 or something.
Right.
Turn 8. And it being, Frilled Mystic being a hard counterspell is really relevant.
How relevant is the 3/2 body?
So far in these games, I've witnessed worse than a dismiss.
Right.
Because having the card go to the graveyard is very big, and Zan has not played a lot of matches where the Frilled Mystics go to the graveyard.
Also, another situation where I would love for it to be actual Mystics deck. I think it'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Right. That second green pip is I've been a nightmare.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy.
When you already have Explosion in your deck, it's like, why? Double green pips is not where you want to be.
Drawing a Wilderness Reclamation is huge.
Yeah.
Because now Zan can...
I think this is textbook.
This is how Zan wants to play.
Right. This is exactly what wants to happen. Because he didn't even have it in his opening hand, right? It wasn't dead in any way.
No, this is classic Reclamation on 4, have an interactive spell.
Right. Yes, all interaction all the way up, keep you off of it, and then I will play Wilderness Rec.
Untapped land for the...
We haven't seen an Narset today. We've seen one in some other matches, but not against Zan specifically, I think.
No. This is the first time Zan has played against Narset. Even against Fires, I don't believe Lucas had one.
Right. Yep, and so Daniel has left himself open to Reclamation.
Zan putting a stop on end step just for good habit. Doesn't have actually anything to do.
Right.
But doesn't want to get in the habit of not putting a stop there because it's disastrous. So Daniel looking for another card.
So is Narset good in this matchup?
Narset...
I don't think it's good here anymore.
It is very good against normal Team of Reclamation.
Right.
Zan has more creatures. This is where the Frilled Mystic body is actually relevant. If Daniel tries to play a threat here, and it's not Teferi, because that Narset did just find a Mystical Dispute.
Right.
So Teferi with Dispute backup is the thing. And it looks like
we have a shock
land into
a Night of Autumn. Right, and that was actually in his main deck.
Okay, interesting. So this... Zan doesn't have a good way to play around this. Because even if you try to play... If you let this resolve and then play the Frilled Mystic after to kill the Nissa, it still gets countered. So you either...
do you like the Gust here? I think that's kind of strange.
It depends on if Zan wants this card out of the hand. If Zan can play around Mystical Dispute forever, you don't... I don't think so.
Just the way I see it is that, his opponent could easily let Aether Gust resolve, and Zan isn't in much of a better situation.
Right. Zan, I think, needs to force this because now what Daniel can do, the Reclamation's off the table, but Zan still has some stuff going. Like, he's got the Frilled Mystic. Brazen Borrow was a very good draw. Not necessarily because of Petty Theft, but because the actual 3/1.
Right.
It just can pressure an Narset.
Again, Teferi, being the big one too.
Right.
I know. Teferi, with the team of Rec decks, the Brazen Borrow was the big, this is great against Teferi, and which there it is. Let's see if...
Yeah, but unfortunately the Aether Gust does stop Frilled Mystic.
Right, but not Brazen Borrow, right?
You can't. You're right, but Brazen Bar would get bounced.
Right, but there was that primer that said you always cast.
Yeah, you have to, but it's not
Brazen Bar.
It's not fantastic, and this Aether Gust is still going to be a problem. Like, if the Brazen Borrower comes out here, and it looks like Zan is considering it. If the Brazen Borrower gets bounced, goes back to Zan's hand, then Daniel's up a card, and this Aether Gust is still a problem, but the Frilled Mystic is just a 3/2 now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
On their adventure to prison. Got it.
This is very, really good turnaround from Daniel, being able to leverage Knight of Autumn into reactive spells.
Zan did everything he wanted to. He could have probably drawn some more mystical disputes, but I mean, mostly he drew the cards he wanted to, had them in the right sequence.
Embouchure is good, but this is kind of where it looks like Zan's going to play the Borrower here, just because it can pressure Teferi and allow the ambush to come out. But the Aether Gust is still a problem.
Right.
Like, Frilled Mystic is going to be checked by it. An IPAC Ambusher can get it.
Yeah, I mean, Zan's in a tight spot, actually.
And it's lucky Daniel doesn't have the marquee threats right now.
Right.
Daniel's giving Zan a lot of time to kind of draw out of it by only having a 2/1. But if Daniel draws into a Tamio or an Uro or Nissa, these are huge swings. And there's the Nissa. Yeah. And this even untaps a breeding pool.
To keep up Aether Gust.
Yeah. I almost called it a growth chamber because it produces blue-gray.
And he's also going to get in for 5. I mean, the clock, this Nissa is so good.
And now Zan has to make a choice of which Planeswalker to attack.
Right.
And there are no good options. You can ping away the Nissa, you can attack Teferi. I think Teferi is probably the choice because it turns on your hand.
Choice,
and you can Aether Gust the Nissa during Daniel's draw step, which would prevent him from using it that turn. And it takes away the mana advantage Nissa provides, just kind of for free.
Interesting. Zan is looking at it on his end step.
This is the benefit of playing around, I guess, because Dispute can be paid for during draw step. So it'd have to be a hard counter. And I'm not sure why. Okay, so I see. Because if Daniel just draws a card, doesn't play land with this Growth Spiral, and then just draws the Nissa and replays it, Frilled Mystic will counter it without Aether Gust being involved. So Zan's trying to get everything here by doing it main phase, Daniel replaying it, possibly, and Zan countering on the way down. If Zan doesn't go for the Nissa, if Daniel doesn't go for it, Zan will play the Nightpack Ambusher, which will use the Aether Gust.
Right.
Which then lets the Frilled Mystic be a counterspell.
Yep, so this is him playing around the known Aether Gust.
Yes. Because it's been a problem for a couple turns. The Narset was really, despite its passive not triggering yet,
right?
The Narset was huge this game just based on the cards it drew.
Right, yeah, it was just, draw 2 good spells, very relevant interaction spells.
Here's Teferi with mana to Aether
with
Gust.
The classic. Is this the third Teferi?
This is the second Teferi.
Okay.
The first one was a big deal. The Nightpack Ambusher is good because Teferi bounces a creature, but you still get to get an attack in. And you gust. So you bounce the Brazen Borrower, then Zan can't do anything, and actually you could if you're Daniel, you can just plus here.
Yep.
If you plus, Zan tries to play a blocker, you can bounce it and attack almost for lethal with Nissa if you draw a land.
I'm actually surprised Zan put the ambush on top.
That is surprising. It kind of leaves him dead on board.
Right.
Well, the Teferi can't actually bounce anything, but it does block for the Nightpack Ambusher will block.
Right.
And it blocks significantly better than Frilled Mystic.
Right.
So if Daniel ends up playing the Nissa, and he probably will because it's a huge impact card that Zan can interact with.
But he doesn't know that we have a Frilled Mystic?
Well, it doesn't matter right now.
Right.
There's Teferi in play.
Right. That's why, yeah. I mean, just what is anything else Zan can have here?
That's good at sorcery speed. There's not. So Zan could have Expansion Explosion in his hand, could have Thassa's Intervention, and these cards are just turned off by Teferi. Daniel doesn't know what's in Zan's hand because this Frilled Mystic has not been revealed yet.
Right.
So Daniel might just think Zan has just a dead card in hand.
Right.
It's
Well, which he does.
Yes, it's not the deadest of dead, but it is pretty bad. Daniel actually drew the land to play the Nissa. Oh, it was actually a temple, so he had to tap the creature land. Not like it was getting in there anyway.
Right.
Teferi ticks up to 3. There is an attack. Just pushing a little bit of damage because it's lethal next turn anyway. Oh, there's an Aether Gust. We're gonna Aether Gust the Nightback Ambusher before blocks. So yeah, Zan can't afford to top it now because that leaves him dead on board. I'm not sure what exactly he's trying to draw. There's not a spell in his deck that would be able to salvage him from this situation. Growthfell certainly is not it.
And then never concede.
Yeah, Zan sticks it out. For good or bad. Oops. I don't know why he oopsed.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You can't draw Growthfell with Narset in play. Maybe that's what he meant. But like, I don't know, was Teferi doing anything? Alright, you gotta throw the Frilled Mystic out there. Just counter any spell. This is a lot over lethal. It's not like Zan plays Root Snare. These are open deck lists.
Right.
Daniel's not going to play.
Especially in top 8, but yes, through the whole tournament
crazy.
they have been, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even a Root Snare wouldn't really do it.
It would
need, Manamorphose into Settle the Wreckage.
Root Snare into Tameo.
Right,
Get back Root Snare. Plus for another Root Snare.
Right.
The classic, Nexus stuff.
All right, so does anything change here? I think, did we just see Spectral Sailors go back in?
The second Spectral Sailor made its appearance back on the play.
See what he cuts.
I would actually expect Expansion Explosion to come in on the play because it's a little better on the play for copying a Mystical Dispute.
Yep, absolutely.
Spectral Sailor just... It hasn't impressed me.
I love that part of the inclusion of Expansion Explosion is...
Ooh, we're putting Bone Crusher down.
Its ability to be more... mystical disputes. You want so many mystical disputes.
2 mana mystical dispute. Yeah.
I mean, it's literally gainsaying that situation, right? It has become,
It's Mana Leak.
I guess yes. Yeah, it would be better if it was, randomly gainsay.
Zan's looking at Bone Crusher, decides to go with a couple more creatures.
This is interesting.
Took out another explosion for Bone Crusher. Probably just doesn't want to get bogged down with cards that are bad against Teferi. Narset's also a part of Daniel's deck.
Right.
Explosion would not have done very much.
No.
Zan would have drawn it.
It's just a really bad fireball.
Right.
Actually, literally Cavric's Torch or whatever.
Cavric's Torch is only 3 mana.
Oh, is it 1+2 for instant speed?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's actually just Blaze, right? Not actually Fireball.
Yeah, Fireball's got weird baggage text.
Hey, you mean an X and a Y?
But, Cavric's Torch makes blue spells cost 2 more.
I believe that card won at Pro Tour.
Yes. It's weirdly worded, right? It only makes blue spells cost 2 more while it's on the stack. It doesn't actually cost
I believe
2 more.
Yeah.
Anyway, Zan's leading on strong here with a Spectral Sailor that snuck in under Mystical Dispute.
Right.
Because he wanted to make sure it resolved. Which is really dedication to just having some board presence.
So does he shock here to...
No.
Yeah.
The low life total is relevant against Nissa with chunks of 3 damage. 18 is divisible by 3. And there's nothing for Zan to bluff with a...
Yeah, especially not your opponent on their turn 2.
Right. And this one you would pay for because Lost Generation is a card you counters Teferi.
Has, yeah.
So here Daniel's relevant plays are Teferi, Narset. Both... Yeah, this is the more likely play to just... Zan doesn't have any plays on 3. We've seen Zan fire off some Foss's interventions for 1 a couple times this tournament.
Yep.
Not going to do it this time because he wants to keep up interaction.
Probably isn't going to go for the Reclamation here, I assume.
No, he hasn't usually. Aether Gust is a factor.
Also not going to get the Mountain here.
No, there's a Frozen Stand. Can get the other island. There's also just no real reason to Reclamation when Zan has a land, Zan has a Spectral Sailor.
Right.
So Zan can just, activate this.
Hey, these sailors are going to be good this game, actually.
Well, the first sailor is.
Right.
The second one mostly just covers Teferi.
Right.
So if Daniel plays the Teferi here, Knight of Autumn for no value. Looks like a 4/3 Knight of Autumn. This should just resolve it. It won't take Zan down before he can block it.
Yeah.
I think it's less important than...
I'm wondering if Zan just wants to be efficient and use cards.
Yeah, if he wants to...
I mean, this, for the first time, this 3-2 could be relevant,
But this dispute is open, so Frilled Mystic is not even that great, because if Daniel disputes it, you lose out on your card draw from Sailor. Zan loses out on having the 3-2 body, and then Daniel still has a 4-3. If Zan wants to push the dispute out of the hand, it should be with Thassa's intervention. Because the Frilled Mystic can attack Planeswalkers, and that's a big part of how Zan wants to lose the game. Or has to lose the game.
Right.
It's when Daniel gets a bunch of Planeswalkers in play.
Right, I mean, the last game he had 3 in play at one point.
Yes.
I've been shocked at how, sweet these games are. Zan has really gotten us out of some, pretty tight situations.
Yeah, for sure. And Zan is really thinking about this decision. Eventually he decides to let the night resolve. Just decides a 4-3 is not going to be...
Well, you just predicted, it's probably not worth it. Just a 4-3 for 3.
Right. But especially since there's nothing here that covers Reclamation, so Zan can actually sneak a Reclamation into play.
The first time, I think, all tournament, we've seen a Spectral Sailor draw a card.
He drew a card once when I was casting a game with Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, it happened. I remembered it. And then it immediately died.
Okay. Replace itself.
It was honestly a little incorrect for Zan to draw the card, because he could have drawn 2 cards with the passing the turn. So Zan gets to play another Sailor here if he wants to. Looks like he just might as well. Daniel, it's not uncommon for... Is this going to get disputed? That would be crazy. There's no way Daniel was going to dispute this. But there was a pause there, so Zan knows that Daniel has it. I forgot my other train of thought.
We were previously talking about Spectral Sailor drawing a card when it shouldn't have.
It wasn't about that.
Also resolving Reclamation right here.
Yeah, the Reclamation is very big.
Right.
Now we're kind of playing Zan's game, and Zan just has to play his game before this 4-3 matters.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? This deck has just very clearly, like Flash decks, you want to make the game in your control as fast as possible, but not do the normal route of, I'm going to counter everything you do and respond to everything you do.
So here is where the dispute comes up. Zan knows about it, but this is kind of a forced play. This Knight of Autumn matters less than a Planeswalker.
Right.
But it's certainly going to... It certainly matters.
Right. 2 4-3s.
Right. So you soak up this... It looks like he's choosing to soak it up with Thassa's intervention. Because Zan cannot pay for Mystical Dispute. He's 1 mana short.
And he's just going for the
just
X equals 1.
Just to make you have it.
Make you, yep.
And we're fairly confident that Daniel does have it. Because there's a pause at the end step. Yeah. So that comes into play, kills the Wilderness Reclamation, and now we've just kind of got 1 Sailor. I think the other one's going to chump the 2-1 Knight.
Yeah.
Or trade with the 2-1 Knight. And then we have to just hope Zan draws some pressure before the Planeswalkers start coming out with this.
Well, and this is where the Sailor's going to be good, right? Like, even if Zan is doing nothing, he's still drawing a card. He doesn't probably have to fade, some pressure from Daniel. Zan hovers over the mountain that he loves so much.
Yeah, he can't afford to play it. These lands need to come into play, and they can't afford to cost Zan life.
Yeah, not anymore.
No. The Frilled Mystic is awkward as a green card because it's vulnerable to Aether Gust. So, and this is a trade here for the Knight of Autumn. So Zan falls down to a precarious 10. And if Daniel's assembling it to Fairy plus interaction turn, or just playing out lands
to
go,
a shock here.
Tameo interaction or Tameo Gust, that would solve Frilled Mystic. Hydro Crisis is pretty good too. It's another huge flying creature. Zan's going to counter it because, you have to.
But opponent still gets, 2 cards, 2 life?
Yes, 2 cards, 2 life. This Mystic does trade for the other Knight of Autumn. Zan didn't really draw a card there, so we're probably going to activate Spectral Sailor at some point.
Right.
In step likely, just to represent more counter magic. This is going on the aggressive with the Frilled Mystic. Maybe planning to play the Bone Crusher Giant.
Probably going to play Bone Crusher.
Then play the Mountain, and then draw a card.
Because Stomp isn't really ineffective.
No, Stomp isn't effective, but you would... I think Zan would rather have a 4-3 in play than a 3-2. So it's... Zan's kind of weighing the 3 damage versus just taking this hit.
Oh, so yeah, I actually think he's scrying now.
Well, drawing a card is better than scrying.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forget. Yeah. Sailor's such a uncommon thing to me.
Yeah, if Zan values the sheer selection more than the actual cards, it's usually dire straits.
Yeah, and Zan's now very precarious.
And Zan has a blocker for Snight of Autumn. He just chose to attack with that last turn. So Zan is not out of the money yet. If he wants to play around Teferi by playing Bone Crusher Giant and leaving them both open, he can. It's a little risky. Because then you're not pressuring very much, and Daniel's just kind of got full reign. Daniel's got a 6-card grip. Hasn't missed a land drop yet. Actually, I believe he has. Maybe not. But we don't know the contents of Daniel's hand. I believe he would have played a 3-mana Planeswalker if he had an interactive spell. So he's either missing the 3-mana Planeswalker or the interactive spell. And he has, Narsets and Teferis?
Right.
Bottom's the card. And here's Teferi. So this Stomp has to get played?
Yep,
no. We can't.
He still wants to draw a card.
Well, you can do both.
Right.
But Stomp apparently just doesn't matter very much. Because getting us Aether Gusted would actually be pretty bad. The Stomp. So this will bounce something. It might plus. Plus takes away the ability for Zan to kill it in combat. But it still kills with Stomp. Like Stomp is still...
Yeah, we see a plus here.
So 3 mana means Gust is still live. Dispute's still live on a non-blue card.
So what can Zan draw here? Well, it's not a Growth Spiral or a land.
Awkwardly, Growth Spiral would have been a pretty good draw if Teferi hadn't been in play.
Right. If
Zan had responded to Teferi with Spectral Sailor and then Growth Spiraled, that would have been much more efficient than what Zan ended up doing. Here it looks like Zan's just going to stomp off the Teferi and then try to replay the Giant to block the Knight of Autumn. Zan could have tried to draw a card with the Growth Spiral, but wants to play around Dispute a little bit. Actually, does playing around Dispute do anything? Yeah, but you can still play around Dispute if you don't Growth Spiral, because you have double red and you can stomp Bone Crusher with Dispute open, with Dispute mana open.
To Legally Brian, my name is Whit Rathanacharansari, and I am commentating with Lee McLeod. On break this round has been Chris Castro-Rappel, our third host. We are currently in the semifinals of the first Lotus Box. I'm calling it the Quarantine Invitational, but it is the Patreon Championship. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning in, even though it's late. But yeah, we are in some, game 3 of the semis. We've been following Zan Syed all day, and he's made it this far. Maybe a little on the ropes now, but
it's a rough game.
Yeah.
And Zan knows he can Growth Spiral here because there's no Dispute backup for a red spell. And Zan still has Dispute open, but not for non-blue spells. So it's basically not in his hand.
Right.
Because Nissa would still be a huge problem. We block the Knight of Autumn and then have to attack the Nissa, or maybe block the land and try to kill the Nissa, but it'd be pretty rough. But we know Daniel doesn't have it because he would have played it already.
Right.
So Daniel would have just had to rip it. This looks like Elspeth Conquers Death. Yep. I'm going to take out the Bone Crusher Giant, put Zan to a precarious 2, and threaten to bring back, I believe, the Teferi is the only target. I mean, there's a Krasis. You could make it a 1/1 if you wanted to try and cross the finish line like that.
Right.
But Spectral Sailor exists. So
Zan can even draw a card here.
The game's not over, but this Knight of Autumn has been a problem. It's been allowing Daniel to pressure while there was a turn where Zan declined to try to trade with the Knight of Autumn. Right. Took an extra 4. I don't know if Daniel would have ended up attacking with it.
Well, we have a gust for the Knight of Autumn.
Yeah, I think Zan's just going to try and trade this time.
Yeah.
If Daniel tries to go for a Teferi, then no attack with the Spectral Sailor. So Zan's Zan will not get very good mileage out of this Aether Gust. So a good time to Aether Gust would have been then, because now Aether Gust costs 4, and Zan cannot draw a card. He's 1 mana short of that. Mm-hmm. So if Aether Gust is going to be a part of this turn, it's gonna cost. I don't think Daniel would offer the trade here if there's not a good follow-up play. You just rather keep your creature on the board. Because it trades for Nightback Ambusher, that sort of deal.
Right. And those spells cost a lot.
Yes, it does. Still 1 short from drawing 2 cards.
Zan's draws have not been kind to him.
There's an Ambusher.
That one's good.
Teferi does come back next turn, though. Because Knight of Autumn doesn't do that much. Like you can make it a 5/4, which is kind of cool. But it really forces Zan to play this Ambusher out.
Right.
Because you can't see Teferi and then respond.
Well, this is, again, still very close, though. I mean, wait is Zan like to keep us, keep us guessing.
Yeah, for sure.
As he has all tournament. Man, those last couple of rounds.
Yeah, Zan's been pulling out some nail biters.
Yeah. He's gotten a little lucky.
Well,
kind of missteps.
I think Zan...
For Tenacious MTG, I will try to repost that metagame breakdown for you. It's a little cramped, but I'd love for people to sort of see how we did and how successful everything was.
So I think this is Teferi coming back. We'll see what... Yeah, Teferi's getting targeted, so the Ambusher has to come down now. And if Zan wants to play the Aether Gust, which he can't, and leave open draw card mana, and bouncing the... Zan's considering it. It's basically whether drawing a card is better than using Aether Gust as a Pseudo removal spell. Because depending on what Daniel's hand is, this Knight of Autumn might not make a reappearance. So this may just be a bottom Aether Gust, which would be good for Zan. Looks like he's just letting it resolve. So now Teferi can down tick to bounce something. And Daniel's already pretty well insulated. He looks like he's flooding out a little bit.
Right.
Well insulated from Mystical Disputes, that was kind of a non-factor.
Right. Interesting. This is so close.
But now, if Zan would have a Frilled Mystic, Daniel wouldn't have to worry about that. That was a scry at the top. So Zan is incentivized to... I think Daniel should attack here, because if Zan trades off for the field... It's kind of tough to say. Because if we go to Zan's turn... Yeah, so this is good.
Right.
Daniel's giving Zan back a Frilled Mystic. Teferi's still at 2, so it can't be killed by Spectral Sailor.
Right.
And this trades for Nightback Ambusher. Which is kind of why I would have liked to see Zan Aether Gust the Knight of Autumn. Prevents the play of, having to trade off the Spectral Sailor, keeping the Nightback Ambusher in play. And Daniel's likely to bottom the Knight of Autumn.
Right. It sort of punishes Zan for, a Dream Trawler. Punishes Zan for the not gusting.
It's just a little bit. It's a little slight use of resources. This looks like this Dream Trawler is going to cross the finish line.
Right.
Zan has no answer to it.
Yeah, just checking now.
Yeah, Zan has no way to draw a card. Zan has no way to put a card in his hand, and none of the cards in his hand does anything.
Yep, that's it.
Zan's going to say good game. He's a good sportsman, and then concedes.
Yep, awesome. I mean, that's still really tight.
Yeah,
I'm sad to see Zan lose, but no, well played, I think. I think Daniel played that extremely well.
Really good job for Daniel.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually...
Despite it looked like he just didn't have a lot of resources that round. He just kind of flooded out and still was able to scrape together a win.
Well,